effect.
On meetings. What are you doing here? I turned to the man whose hand was on my shoulder. Jump aside, scream, hush the man. Shh. I turned my attention back to the man whose conversation I had found so interesting. However, my brief moment of distraction gave them enough time to disappear. I started looking around for them, but it was all in vain. Oh no, I lost them. Oh no, what's going to happen now? What could possibly happen? They will assassinate the emperor, start a war, and I will know that I could have prevented all but didn't. Excuse me? What? Assassinate the emperor? Those men were conspiring about each other, with each other, mentioned the name of Nicholas II and talked about war and death. They're definitely up to something. Expected some sort of reaction, surprise maybe, or fear, or even panic. But stranger laughed. His loud, childlike laugh attracted the attention of the passengers walking by. Why? What did I say? Having recovered from his fit of laughing, the man looked at me, still smiling. Oh, it's you. I narrowed my eyes, not quite understanding what he meant. You're the snail-paged girl. Excuse me? What? From the gangplank. You wouldn't let me pass, just trudging along like a snail. I suddenly remembered that someone was pushing me when I was boarding the line. I had two heavy suitcases. By the way, you poor thing, you must have exerted yourself. My suitcases were no light either, but I managed somehow. He grunted, putting his hand onto his pocket. Well, just so you know, they were talking about their friend Nicholas. He's getting married, which may be somewhat similar to dying, but not quite literally. How do you know? I am a journalist. Seeking out the truth is my job. I must admit, it was not by chance that I ended up on the same place as you. I was also interested in their conversation, however, my imagination didn't carry me quite as far. But it's funny that we both reacted like that. It's probably logical, I'm a journalist too. Oh, really? Theodore Ivory. I held out my hand and he shook it. Lawrence Berkeley. He grinned at my shocked expression. My hand was still on his. He definitely expected me to react this way once he told me his name. Lawrence Berkeley? I have been learning so much from his articles. It's so nice to meet you. I can let go of my hand now. Say nothing. I didn't know what to say next, so I didn't stood there looking at him. I just stood there looking at him. Are you okay? Yes. He squeezed my hand a little, accompanying his gesture with a slight nod of his head, and then let it go. Cleared my throat. Where are you heading? What do you think? I hesitated for a moment before realizing that in my feeble attempt to fill the silence, I had asked a rather stupid question. I meant, yes, I've got work in France. The situation in Europe pretty bad, huh? Definitely. And what made you leave the relative safely of the state? The same thing as you. Oh, so you're going as frontline journalist? Is it so hard to believe? Don't get me wrong, it's just that you're a woman. Yes, so what? Irritation started to bubble inside me. These kind of comments made me lose my temper quite easily. I know, but still there, girl. You're not alone there. Well, are you at least going on behalf of a news organization? And why should it matter? I didn't want to tell him what I was actually going on behalf of my magazine. How is this any of this business? You must understand why it matters since you're going on such a venture. And if you don't understand, I'm afraid I have some bad news for you. Listen, Mr. Barkley. You write great articles, and I look up to you in many ways, but I didn't ask for advice. I'm tired of constantly making excuses and explaining myself to men like you. I don't want to waste my time on this. Lifting my chin, I nodded him goodbye and turned round to leave. Before I'd taken 2 steps, I felt his hand on my wrist. Miss Avery, I am sorry if I offended you. May I take you to dinner? No? Why not? As an apology? If I'm not on first class passenger, I won't be allowed in the same restaurant as you. If I say that you're with me, they will certainly let you in. All right. Lawrence smiled, pleased that I accepted his invitation. Should I go change? I'm not sure if I have anything suitable for a first class restaurant. Oh, don't worry about it. You don't need to wear anything fancy. You look beautiful. I felt myself blushing. Let's go. Lawrence took me to the restaurant. I felt a little uncomfortable, surrounded by such luxury, glittering jewelry, and opulent fabric dazzled me. One prism from this chandelier would cost me many months' worth of wages. Yeah, we've spent too much time away from high society, Theodora. My companion pulled out a chair at one of the table and invited me to sit down before taking a seat himself. Are you okay? I feel out of place here. Understand, but this He waved his hand at the air with a barely perceptible grin. It's easy to get used to. The waiter came up to us and took our orders. I shifted in my chair, still feeling uncomfortable with the rich interior of the restaurant. When the food arrived, I relaxed a little and dug into my duck with applesauce. Lawrence was watching me closely, trying to hide his curiosity behind small talk. I see that you're not from working class family. Excuse me? He didn't take his eyes off me. I had no intention to back down, so I didn't lower my eyes either. You know how to use the appropriate cutlery. Your table manners are excellent. That has to be something you learned or picked up in childhood. And what makes you think that I didn't learn it? The fact that I did, and I know that in this scenario you would either make a fox pass or conduct yourself unnaturally too perfectly, which is also not good. Wow, I had no idea you weren't from a rich family. Everyone has their flaws. I pushed my food around the plate. I don't call my origin a positive quality. That's probably why I haven't been to places like these for a long time. The man shrugged. The duck clearly need more salt. I agree with you on that. We reached for the salt shaker at the same time and our finger touched. I looked at him and grinned. Ladies first. Thank you, sir. Would you like me to tell you a funny story that happened during the Mexican Revolution? Sure, unless you have already written about it. I've read your whole series of articles several times. Oh no, that missed the newspaper. The evening was wonderful. Lawrence's stories about his adventures sounded even better than how they read, printed on paper. Once back to my cabin, I wrote a couple of notes in my notebook and went to bed. The rest of the journey passed without an incident. 5 days later, the liner docked in France. It's time to get dressed. Plaid skirt. Dress with puff sleeve. Here come the hair. It's time. I had never been to Europe before, but I didn't have much time for distressing. The moment I set foot on dry land, I bought a fresh newspaper. Germany declares war on France. I quickly scanned the article. Germany puts forward an ultimatum. Let the troops pass through Belgium. Refusal. Belgium. It looks like everything is going to start there. There was no time to think about Events followed one another very quickly, and I had to keep up with it. Good afternoon, Miss Avery. I turned around and saw Lawrence. I smiled at him. Glad to see you, Mr. Barkley. I'm glad that I spotted you in the crowd. So, what's the plan then? You still haven't told me whether you represent any newspaper or magazine. Tell him. Well, represent the magazine Housewife's Secret. I felt embarrassed. Lawrence Barkley wrote for many famous newspapers while I only wrote for a small women's magazine. Despite my embarrassment, I did not look away, deciding that even if he laughed in my face, I would not lose my dignity. Charming. I'm not less than you, Mr. Barkley. Maybe I'm not writing for the Times yet, but when did I say I thought you were less than me? He took a deep breath. Look, Theodora, frontline journalism is dangerous, really dangerous. You have to be 100% sure that you are ready for it. You can't let your excessive ambition. This is not excessive ambition, really. Just from scrap of conversation, you concluded that two men were about their friend's wedding were discussing an assassination attempt on the emperor. I understand I have been there. I'm just trying to say, think everything through. I looked at the hem of my dress. He's talking nonsense. He's trying to warn me. I understand what you're trying to say, Mr. Barkley, and I'm grateful for your concern. But I wouldn't be here if I weren't sure of my decision. I know what I want and what I am capable of. The man gave me a faint smile and shook his head. I'm going to Tourcoing. I hope I said it right. With several other American journalists, and from there to Brussels. You probably already know that main events are going to unfold in Belgium. He nodded at the newspaper in my hand. Yes, I'm going there too. In that case, I suggest you join us, since we happen to be going in the same direction. I won't lose anything if I go with Lawrence and his fair friends. At least I can get to Brussels with them and then go my own way from there. All right, thank you for the invitation. I'm going to come with you. Great. We went to the station and took the train to Tourcoing. Lawrence introduced me to his three colleagues, but none of them were happy about me unexpectedly joining their group, especially Mr. Ronald Crowe. Once a relatively successful journalist, he decided to start his own newspaper but failed. Now, after his debacle, not many editors were eager to hire him. So all he could do was write for Evergreen Daily, which was not a very popular publication. Housewife's Secret, huh? He was sitting opposite me with his legs crossed, looking around as if expecting his friends to join in with the teasing. That's the name of the magazine I work for, yes. I remained as composed as I could, trying not to show that his comments irked me. I wish I hadn't said anything to Lawrence. Was it that hard for him not to tell his colleagues where I work? Nobody takes me seriously. They would have. It's rather amazing, honestly. today. You're going to war tomorrow. Romantic's bad. Oh, Mr. Crow, take it easy. There's no need to get yourself all worked up just because you're afraid that a woman will do better than you. What are you? Ronald, calm down. You're being disgustingly rude to Miss Avery. Crow instantly hunched his head to shame. Lawrence was very well respected, so Ronald thought it better not to cross him. We have yet to see Miss Avery in action. Who knows, maybe she makes a better journalist than all of us. Before long, we found ourselves in Torchconning. I was glad that this trip was finally over and I was looking forward to what to come next. At the train station, we got into cars which took us to the border post between France and Belgium. I took out my notebook and wrote down a few notes, lingering behind Lawrence and his group. Meanwhile, they were talking to an officer who was probably looking through their documents. I have nothing to worry about. All my documents are in order. Nevertheless, my fingerprints were numb with anxiety. Anything can happen. Swallowing, I moved toward the officer. Hello. He paid no attention to me, still sorting through the sheets of paper in his hands. Excuse me, monsieur, hello. Finally, the man looked up at me, his eyes widened. Good afternoon, madam. I'd like to get permission to cross the border. I am a journalist. A journalist? I swallowed against the lump in my throat. Yes. Your documents, please. I handed him a sheaf of papers, trying to hide the slight tremor in my hands. The officer carefully looked through the documents. His eyes kept darting from me to the papers. He squinted. Tell me, Madame Avery, why do you want to go to the front and work as a war correspondent? I looked around at a loss, as if screeching for support. Searching, but there was no hope of any help. I was at the first turn of my venture. The heavy, frowning eyebrows of the officer inspired little hope. I want to capture the story of ordinary people, shows everyone what I'm capable of. I want to tell everyone what's going on so that people will hear not only dry, factual reports on the casualty, the number of weapons used in the battle, or how long the defense stood. I want to write articles about people. The officer looked at me for a long moment and then nodded slowly but confidently. He took a sheet of paper with a typewriter text, entered my data with a pen, and put a huge signature. Here is your permission. I instantly reached out and took the documents. Thank you, officer. I hope you told me the truth. Good luck to you. Thank you. Goodbye. Lawrence was standing nearby, catching my eye. He beckoned me over. Are you okay? Yes, just fine. We're heading off to Brussels soon. Will you join us? If Mr. Crow refrains from any more comments about me, then yes. I'm sure he's just feeling threatened. And rightly so. We arrived in Brussels. The journalists scattered about, and Lawrence volunteered to accompany me to the center of the city. The atmosphere in Brussels was impressive. The street, the people seemed to have faded, lost their colors, hidden behind the fear of unknown. I had this feeling. Each time you have to get used to it all over again. Used to what? To this. He turned around, spreading his arm. To the war. I've seen it so many times. I've seen sons kill their fathers. I've seen mothers forced to watch their children being beaten. He swallowed. And now it will start all over again. Sometimes I forget having chosen frontline journalism. Regret. I could write about horse racing or about how to tell a ripped tomato from an unripped one. Yes. Lawrence brushed invisible speaks of dust off his suit and looked at me. Here's my business card if you need me. Always stay at this address in Brussels, so call me or come by at any time. Thank you. I'd give you my business card, but I don't have one. You'll get one when you become a successful journalist. I kissed him on the cheek. I stepped closer and gently touched Lawrence's cheek with my lips. In that brief moment, feelings his warm breath on my skin, I felt safe. When I pulled away, he stood still for a moment, looking into my eyes. I think we'll meet again soon. I certainly hope so. In that case, goodbye, Lawrence. Goodbye, Theodora. He waved at me and walked away, leaving me alone with my thoughts and the strangely cold street of Brussels. With the money provided by the editorial office, I was able to rent a cozy room. Long days of waiting followed. German troops besieged and captured Leys and soon reached Brussels. I saw the Germans entering the capital, abandoned the day before by the king and queen. The Belgians stood like stone statues and watched their city being taken away, without resistance, without a battle, as if it were something insignificant, redundant, unnecessary. Brussels was occupied. Wherever I went, I felt the formidable formidable presence of the Germans, but nevertheless I went outside every day, absorbed the lack of smiles, fear, and tension. One day, a young woman sitting on the step in front of a house attracted my attention. She was crying. I looked around and then come closer. Are you okay? Oh, she cried all the harder. I sat down on the step next to her. What happened? They won't let me out of the city. The Germans took everything. I need to go home. But they won't let me out. The woman covered her face with her hand. What's your name? Yuko Vendara Lucy. I'm Theodora Avery. Where do you come from? High Mord. It's a small town, not very far away, just an hour by train. I can also get evicted from my room at any time. Her shoulders were shaking and tears were rolling down her cheeks. I live quite close by. Would you like to come to my place and have some tea? You can come down and tell me more about everything. Yuko sniffed. You feel sure it's not too much trouble? Of course not. Come with me. We get up from the stairs and I led Yoko to my place. I was glad the room I entered was good enough to bring guests. It's so cozy here. Thank you. I made tea. I had a couple of cookies left, so I put them in a basket on the table. It was becoming harder and harder to secure provisions. At the thought of food, I longingly remembered that bland duck with applesauce that I ate with Lawrence. We sat down opposite each other at the table. Our gazes met. Her eyes, still red from crying, shone with humble gratitude. She sniffled again and smiled, and the sight of it took my breath away. I wanted to seal this moment in my memory. Her tears stained it face, the lingering teardrop on her long eyelashes, and a small gentle smile. A smile full of light and hope. Thank you. You have no one in Brussels. No one in Brussels, and I feel so lonely. I'm happy to help, Yoko. Could you tell me more about your situation? She took a deep breath. My father and son are in High Mord. I don't even know how they are getting on without me. I came to Brussels on business. I planned to return within a week, but I wasn't fast enough to be able to leave the city. The Germans came. From now on, the railway is under their control. I don't care about the train. I would walk if they'd let me leave, but they won't. What do they care if I'm here or at home? I'm just a nurse, not some kind of spy. The woman started biting her thumbnail, but immediately cherished herself. A stupid habit. I looked at her sympathetically, covering her hand with mine. Then I had an idea. I'm an American journalist. The state are not participating in the war, at least not yet. I have permission. They should let me out of Brussels. I could help her. I was feeling genuinely sorry for Yoko. Being kept apart from your loved ones. And at a time when you have no idea what might happen tomorrow. Terrifying. Theodora, I must help. And if it works out, I can document her story. Is everything okay? Yoko must have noticed the expression on my face. My brother always said that it meant trouble, yet I felt certain that it foreshadowed adventures. I think I know what to do, Yoko. Really? Yes, but rummaging through my purse, I took out a business card. We might need some support help here. Sorry, what? Please, Lawrence. We must help her out. While I was whispering to Lawrence, Yoko was sitting in an armchair across the room. Who said that we must? Don't you feel sorry for her? I clasped my hand. I want to help her. And besides, think about it. What's the point of staying in Brussels? The city has surrounded. What you're suggesting is reckless. Oh, come on. Do need to remind you of your series of articles on the Russian Revolution. You got into the thick of the upspring and you didn't think about how reckless it was. Where is your adventurous journalistic spirit? I was young and inexperienced then, maybe. But the article came out absolutely amazing. The shy smile caused by my word was gone from the man's face in a second. I still don't understand, why do you need me there? You have permission. You can move around without me. I want you to come. I like your company. The feeling is mutual, Miss Ivory. All right, you've taken me into it. Thank you. We're leaving tomorrow morning. I am going to borrow a car from a friend. Right. Then we are agreed. We'll be waiting at the city gates. The next morning, Yoko and I were waiting at the agreed place. German soldier gave us suspicious look as they passed by. Soon Lawrence arrived in a car. Are you ready? Yes. Yes. Lawrence nodded and we went to the post to show our travel permits. Such an enterprise is not in line with journalist ethics. We will have to lie. Yoko, try not to talk. Last, your accent gives you away. If anyone asks, you're also an American journalist. Pretend you have a sore throat so you can talk. I couldn't get a fake credentials. So let's hope for a miracle and for this surgeon's ignorance. Yoko fidgeted with her fingers. Everything will be fine. Think about your son and father. The woman pursed her lips and nodded. She hugged herself as if she were shaking with fever. We proceeded toward the post. Hello, we need to leave the city. His German sounded almost perfect. What's the matter? The young sergeant fixed up each with a cold stare as if trying to read our identities. We are American journalists. Here are our documents. Miss Tolway is sick. He gestured at Yoko and she looked precariously at the sergeant. I was standing next to her, holding her under one arm. The local doctor said, "We need it, mister. Can you remind me what his name is, Theo?" I perked up. Anyway, this doctor lives in Hemward, not far from here. He has a very rare area of specialization. We need to consult with him about Miss Tolway's health. German soldier looked through the documents again. I could hear the rustle of every sheet. My heart was pounding loudly against my chest. Yoko was shaking all over, which was actually to our advantage, but I knew that she wasn't acting. Lawrence was the only one who seemed to maintain a stony composure and was smiling calmly. The sergeant suddenly raised his head and fixed Lawrence with a look full of rage. "Did you think I'm some kind of idiot, huh? God damn it." "Ha, gotcha. Wish you could see the look on your face, ladies. And you're a tough one, man." The German slapped Lawrence on the shoulder, laughing loudly. "Drive through. What are you waiting for?" Bowing gratefully, we went to the car and get inside. "Get well soon, beauty." The sergeant shouted out the words as we drove past him. Only when Brussels was long left behind, I allowed myself to sigh in relief. It worked. Yeah, I almost died. "I'm going home," Yoko laughed happily. In a fit of emotion, she hugged me. The air around us was suddenly filled with the scent of Kemoli soap coming from her hair. Pulled her closer, give her a friendly hug. Smiling, I wrapped my hands around Yoko's back. After a few seconds, we pulled away from each other. "Thank you, Theodora, and thank you, Mr. Berkeley." Lawrence grinned kindly without taking his eyes off the road. "Tell me where to go, Yoko." After a while, we arrived in Hemward. Yoko could barely sit still. The noise of the engine alarmed the townfolks. Some of them shut the door and windows while others came outside instead. Among the more daring ones were an old man and a boy of about 5. The minute they saw our little group, the boy pointed at us. Mom, Yoko." The instant Lawrence stopped the car, Yoko ran out of it to her family. The moment of their reunion was forever catches into my memory. Yoko crouched down to be on the same level as her son, wrapping her arms around his small, thin body. She hugged him tightly and he held her in return, nuzzling her neck. The old man fell onto his knees next to his daughter and grandson and hugged them both tightly, bursting into tears. Yuko was snorting her son's head, stroking, gently rocking back and forth, whispering something in his ear. It seemed like the whole world narrowed down to just the three of them. Family. How good of an article this could be. That's not important right now. Yesterday it looked as if the article was not that important to you. I didn't take my eyes off Yoko and her family. Why not? Certainly, it was important, simply not much as helping her. Finally, Lawrence and I get out of the car and approach them as soon as they released each other from their embrace. This is Miss Theodora Avery and Master Lawrence Berkeley. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here. We nodded respectfully. This is my father, John von der Lucy. I'm so grateful to you. Thank you for bringing Yoko home. And this is my son, Bruno. I crouched down to say hello to the boy, but he hurriedly hid behind his mother's skirt, looking apprehensively from her to me. Mom, Yoko smiled awkwardly and continued a little quieter. He hardly speaks, but he's very smart. He understands everything. She patted Bruno's head affectionately. Please come. Mom. Bruno clutched the hem of Yoko's skirt with his little finger and large tears started rolling down his cheeks. Oh, baby. She deftly swept the child into her arm and turned to us. I'm sorry. It happens sometime. He gets very anxious. We need to go home. Don't worry about it. Yes, it's all right. I think I'll stay here for a while. Me too. We live over there. The old man pointed at one of the small houses. If you forget, ask anyone, they will tell you. We all know each other here. You can stay with Madame Waters. She rents out rooms. She lives by the church. There's a sign with her name on the fence. All right, then I'll see you tomorrow. Yes, thank you. See you. Bruno kept crying. Jen took Lawrence's hand in farewell, bowed to me, and the three of them walked down the street. Lawrence and I watched them as they left. Well, what now? I shrugged my shoulder. I'd like to walk around the town for a bit, and I can't wait to get started to that article. Then you go to Madame Montor and I'll join you later. Agreed. We went our separate ways. Lawrence went in the direction of the church and I aimlessly wandered away. People looked at me curiously, obviously alarmed by the new face in town. However, no one came up to me to find out who I was. They were too scared. Didn't know what to expect. I was willing to bet that Most of them saw me as a German spy or even worse. Tired of working, I decided to stop by the tavern in the main square. Surprisingly, there were many people inside. All the tables were occupied. I was instantly wrapped in an atmosphere of comfort and warmth. The customers were sipping their drinks and talking in a relaxed manner. None of them paid any attention to me. I looked at the barkeeper. Good evening. He doesn't seem the least bit surprised. Good evening. I'm happy to welcome you to my tavern. What would you like to drink? I came closer and sat down on a bar stool. Red wine, whatever kind you have. For such a beautiful lady, the drinks are on the house. I laughed. Soon there was a glass of wine in front of me. I took a sip. The drink was definitely inexpensive, but the taste was pleasant. A little sweet and tart. My name is Peter Dagarwet. Service. Theodore Ivory. I'm an American journalist. And what brings you here, Miss American Journalist? I was helping. I was interrupted by the sound of piano music. I looked around, puzzled, and saw the instrument standing in the corner of the room. There was a man sitting at it. I suddenly noticed that my throat was a little dry. Who is he? No Doubts, Episode 3. Who is he? Oh, that's John Roberts. He's an Englishman, a doctor. He got here shortly before the war began. As soon as word got out that the Germans would make their way to France through Belgium, our doctor, the only one in Hamward, gathered his family and ran off devil knows where. Coward. Peter started polishing a glass, definitely putting more effort into it than needed. So, we're lucky that Mr. Robert has agreed to stay and work here. It would have been really hard with no doctor around. I nodded slowly, not looking at Peter. I couldn't take my eyes off John Roberts. His fingertips flows over the keys effortlessly, almost weightlessly. His playing seemed to breathe new life into the old piano. The notes merged into a gently melody, and everything around him stood still. The people and their souls, the wind outside, plants, universe, a moment of peace filled with music. I let the sound envelop me, take me to the edge of reality. Find him to your liking. After blinking several times, I turned to the owner of the tavern. What? I'll take that as a yes. Why is the town's doctor playing the piano at your tavern? Who knows? He likes it. He'd come to me once, asked if he could come and play in the evening from time to time. I agreed. Now you know how many people gathered to listen to him. Interesting. I don't want to dash your hopes, Miss American journalist, but John Roberts is not exactly sociable. What hopes are we talking about? I would be very interested to get to know him. He's so talented. Yes, there's no doubt about that. But the fact is, we know almost nothing about him. He come with a friend, also an Englishman. They keep to themselves. But who knows, maybe it's just our rural society that doesn't agree with them. The Englishman kept playing, but the tempo of the piece got faster. Immersed in the music, he turned his head slyly and noticed me. Our eyes met for a moment, and I felt a little uneasy from how piercing black his eyes were. I immediately turned away, hearing my heartbeat match the increasing tempo of the melody. Signing, I dared to look at him again, but the man had already turned his attention to the piano keys. He played several pieces, and not a single person got up from their seat until the final chord of the music rang out. As soon as Dr. Robert got up from his seat, his audience immediately erupted in applause. The man turned to them, bowed slightly, and then immediately moved toward the door. Catch up with him and introduce yourself. I finished my drink to one gulp and get up from my stool. Peter watched me surprised. Thank you for the wine. I should go. Oh, look who's in a hurry all of a sudden. I grinned and went outside. The man hadn't gone far yet, but he was taking long stride. Dr. Roberts. He stopped and slowly turned around, frowning. I came up to him. Good evening. Evening. My name is Theodora Avery. I am from State, a journalist. I held out my hand. He shifted his gaze from my face to my palm and, after a moment of hesitation, quickly shook it. Nice to meet you. Contrary to his word, there was not the slightest trace of joy on his face. Take it that we're done with the introduction? He titled his head as if asking what else I wanted from him. Yes, Monsieur Desrosiers has told me a little bit about you. You play the piano brilliantly. Thank you. His resistance and lack of any visible interest in talking to me both hurt my pride and sparked even greater curiosity. Do you have any business with me? I just wanted to introduce myself. I interlaced my finger. A faint smile slipped across his lips. Wow, what's the matter? You know how to smile after all. It does happen from time to time. Not very often, I suppose. Good night, miss. He bowed and, without waiting for her answer, left. Just look at him, so mysterious. I should pay him a visit at the hospital sometime. An article about doctor in a war zone, sometime interesting could come of it. I headed toward the church to look off Madame Otter's house. I think this is the right place. It didn't took long. The town was indeed tiny. It was not surprising that everyone knew each other. I opened the gate and went inside the house. The front door led directly to the living room. The room was filled with the smell of gingerbread. As I went in, I saw Lawrence sitting on the sofa in front of the fireplace. I saw he was talking to some gentleman. They both turned at the sound of the door opening. I heard footsteps from somewhere deep inside the house. Oh, you must be Theodora. Nodding to Lawrence and his new acquaintance, I turned to the woman. And you must be Madame Waters? Right, you are, dear. Lawrence has already told me everything about you. The journalist winked at me while biting into a cookies. Have 2 rooms available? Why, as soon as you choose one of them, I will have 3 rooms and occupy it at the same time. This is the first time it's happened. Well, come on, I'll show you everything. All I could do was nod. Madame Monters seemed to have strong lungs and spoke quite quickly without breaks. She took my hand and dragged me further into the house.